Ellie Kedward, 1729, February 1785, was an Irish woman who was banished from the town of Blair after several local people accused her of witchcraft. In February 1785, several children accused her of luring them into her home to draw blood from them. She was found guilty of witchcraft, banished from the village during a particularly harsh winter, and presumed dead. Different reports state that the town dragged her into the woods, tied her to a tree and left her for dead. Young children from the township returned to investigate if Ellie had died yet. They found her alive and still tied to the tree. The children sent dogs after her, and slashed her with sticks and knives. They dipped their hands in her blood and pressed handprints into her flesh before untying her and hanging her from the very same tree. By midwinter, all of Ellie Kedward's accusers, along with half of the town's children, vanished. Fearing a curse, the townspeople fled Blair and vowed never to utter the name Ellie Kedward again. Ellie Kedward's name is likely a play on the name of Edward Kelly, an English Renaissance occultist and self-declared spirit medium. He claimed to be able to summon spirits or angels in a shoe stone or mirror, and may have invented an angelic language he claimed to use to speak to them. Ellie's complete name was either Elizabeth Gill Kedward or Elizabeth Abigail Kedward. In October 1994, film students Heather, Mike, and Josh set out to produce a documentary about the fabled Blair Witch. They traveled to Burkittsville, Maryland, and interview residents about the legend. Locals tell them of Rustin Parr, a hermit who lived in the woods and kidnapped 7 children in the 1940s, supposedly killing all of them on the orders of the witch. The students explore the woods in North Burkittsville to research the legend. They meet 2 fishermen, one of whom warns them that the woods are haunted. He tells them of a young girl named Robin Weaver who went missing in 1888. When she returned 3 days later, she talked about an old woman whose feet never touched the ground. The students hiked to Coffin Rock, where 5 men were found ritualistically murdered in the 19th century. Their bodies later disappeared. They camp for the night, and the next day, find an old cemetery with 7 small cairns. That night, they hear the sound of twigs snapping. The following day, they try to hike back to the car but are unable to find it before dark and make camp. They again hear twigs snapping. In the morning, they find that 3 cairns have been built around their tent. Heather learns her map is missing. Mike reveals he kicked the map into a creek out of frustration, which prompts the other 2 to attack him in rage as they realize they are now lost. They decide to head south, using Mike's compass, and discover humanoid stick figures suspended from trees. They again hear strange sounds that night, including children laughing. After an unknown force shakes the tent, they flee in panic and hide in the woods until dawn. Upon returning to their tent, they find that their possessions have been rifled through, and Josh's equipment is covered with slime. They come across a river identical to one they crossed earlier and realize they have walked in a circle. Josh suffers a breakdown because of the dire situation and disappears the next morning. Heather and Mike try in vain to find him before proceeding. That night, they hear Josh's agonized screams but are unable to locate him. They theorize that his screams are a fabrication by the witch to draw them out of their tent. The next day, Heather discovers a bundle of sticks tied with fabric from Josh's shirt. She also finds blood-soaked scraps of his shirt as well as teeth, hair, and a piece of his tongue. Although distraught, she chooses not to tell Mike. That night, she records herself apologizing to her family and to Mike's and Josh's families, taking responsibility for their predicament. They again hear Josh's agonized cries and follow them to an abandoned house containing demonic symbols and children's bloody handprints on the walls. Trying to find Josh, they go to the basement, where an unseen force attacks Mike, causing him to drop his camera. Heather enters the basement screaming, and her camera captures Mike standing in a corner. The unseen force attacks Heather, causing her to drop her camera as well, and the footage ends.